How are the oceans doing, and how is climate change affecting the oceans? And does it matter?
Of course it matters. So I should start off that because I have done oceanography. So 2 things to kick off with the oceans. One, they're heating up, and unlike the atmospheric temperature records, which are quite noisy because, of course, we have different effects on the atmosphere, and, of course, it reacts quite quickly, the oceans heating up is a very smooth line and actually quite scary because it just shows you that 70% of the world's surface, which is about 3.5 kilometers deep, is just a hot reserve of water that's just heating up more and more. So the first thing is, of course, sea level rise, which we've talked about because of that thermal expansion. There's also additional water being added through the melting of Antarctica and Greenland, which at the moment is quite small contribution. It's mainly thermal expansion, but will get a lot larger in the future. So that's the first thing about the oceans. The second thing is that colleagues of mine, and this is where science sometimes can actually throw up things and you go, why didn't I think of that? Of course, we all realize that when you have CO2 in the atmosphere, it combines with water, and you sometimes get quite acid sort of water, which can damage buildings. Of course, what we forgot was, of course, that CO2 is also dissolved into the ocean. And so the ocean is actually getting more acidic. And people have referred to ocean acidification as climate change's evil twin. You know, scientists like to sell things, okay, to sort of like give you a bit of a sort of a fear factor. But at the moment, the changes are actually quite small. But as we burn more fossil fuels and put more CO2 in the atmosphere, the acidification of the ocean will increase. And the big problem is that, unlike on the land, where we are very adapted to quite large ranges of acid, okay, we have skin to protect us, in the ocean, when many of the actual organisms have calcium carbonate shells, they haven't experienced for the last 55 million years any major change in acidification, so they haven't adapted to it. So we're worried about coral reefs and being dissolved by this acidification. We're also worried about the small plankton, which actually is the base of the food chain in the whole of the oceans. And so at the moment, we're doing huge amounts of study to try and see how sensitive is the ocean to these changes. So those are the 2 things I would worry about the oceans. Aren't I cheerful?
Let me just follow up on that. A couple of things. We're in the midst, or perhaps near the end, of the 3rd worldwide coral bleaching event since 1998, and also the 3rd one in recorded history. Think about that for a minute. 3 worldwide coral bleaching events in history, and they've all occurred within the last 20 years. With respect to plankton, the base of the marine food web, and therefore the source of half of the food humans eat, many areas of the ocean have lost 30% of the plankton, and according to the incredibly conservative Referee Journal literature, the entire ocean system is on the brink, because of changes in pH and temperature, of losing all the plankton. At 6 degrees Celsius above baseline, it's difficult to imagine that we would have any plankton at all. So that's kind of a big deal for those of us who like to eat.